Hello all. So in last session, we have discussed up to how to create the banks and the bank's accounts, supplier setup, address, supplier profile, supplier site assignment. So now in this session, we will discuss about the making the payments. So we can create the payment or make the payment individually for each invoice with the two options we have already available, either through the invoice workbench or through the payment workbench. But in the real-time environment, that is rarely happen. So in real environment, we have to make the payments in the bulk. So for that, we have to make this payment process profile. So payment process profiles, you can say, are like the templates in which we set up some by default settings. So on the basis of those settings, invoices will be picked and payments done for those invoices. And in this payment process profile, we have the like criteria on what basis invoices will be picked and payment details like from what bank account we are going to make the payments. So task is the manage payment process profile. This is the page. In that we have to first give the name, code, from what date it will be activated, then the payment file format. Here we are just for the testing purpose taking it as the standard check format, but in the real time that will be the custom one, and this format will be uh, developed by the technical team. Then that payment file format we have to give here. Processing type printed we have taken. Then we have these multiple tabs like usage rules, payment systems, payment file, grouping, reporting, and additional information. Under the usage rules, we can see these are the different criteria like payment methods. Do we want to take all or some specific? If we take it like specific, so it will give us the option to select the what payment methods we want to select here. Same for the disbursement bank accounts. We can select for from what bank accounts we can make the disbursement. Then the business units, like for what business units, if the invoice belongs to particular business units only, for that we want to make the payments through this payment process profiles, then accordingly we have to select, we can give here or otherwise all. And the currencies, like for specific currencies, if we want to create this payment process profile. So there are multiple payment process profiles we have to create in real environment as per our business requirement. So under reporting tab, if we come, so we have like payment file register positive pay. So what this section positive pay is used for is used to send the file to the bank having information about checks company issued. So like the format of the file, what we will send to the bank, then the file prefix, file extension, something like that. Automatically transmit file, this checkbox. The use of this checkbox is to automatically send the file to the bank once payment is done from our Oracle application. So if we want to make the sends the file directly to the bank without any manual intervention, we have to make it check automatically transmit file. Then there is another section, separate remittance advice. So it is used to send information about the payment to the supplier once payment confirmed from the system what we are paying to. So this is the details we will send to the, this is section is for the supplier. So these details we can send delivery method like email, fax, printed, condition, all payments, or format, what the format we have selected, automatically submit when payments are confirmed. This is the page we can, this is the basically invoice workbench. Through that also we can open the periods in the payables with the help of this task. payables period, manage accounting periods. Or through by going into the general ledger, we can open the period. This is the invoice page during the invoice creation. So in the distribution set, this is just the example how we are using the distribution set. Instead of giving the distribution combination manually, we are just selecting here the distribution set. After giving the distribution set, once we go into the distribution, we can check the details of the type, amount, distribution set, accounting accordingly. These are the some options. By going into the invoice actions like manage installments, validate, calculate tax, apply or unapply prepayments, manage holds, approval, view approval and notification history, cancel invoice, delete invoice, pay in full, post to ledger, account in draft. So as I told you, we can make the payment from invoice workbench, that is pay in full. So what does it mean? From here, we cannot make the partial payment. We have to either make it full payment or nothing. Post to ledger and account in draft. There are two accounting method. Post to ledger is the final one, and the account in draft is the like just we want to check the accounting, but we don't want to post it. So it is kind of draft mode. This is the installment manage installment page. If we have choose any payment terms in which we have setup defined the multiple installments and the due dates. So accordingly, by going into the manage installments option above, this one first option, we can check the for each installment what will be the due date, what will be the gross amount for that installment, and priority we can select it from here. Also the pay group and the pay alone. If like invoice is set up to pay alone individually, then this checkbox will be checked. And pay group, like if this invoice is part of some pay group. Pay group is a different concept in which it is kind of tag we give into the supplier. So that for the all the let's suppose supplier 10 suppliers tag to the same pay group. So by selecting just this pay group, we can make the payment to those 10 suppliers. So that is a different concept. In the practical session, we will discuss in the detail. So this is the invoice accounting page. So once we create the invoice and after validating and approval, once we do the accounting, so it will this will be the accounting entries. Liability account will be credited and the expense account will be the debited. Liability accounts from this in this screen will pick from the invoice header section by going into this accounting tab. So, but here it is coming from either from the supplier side level. If it is not defined there, then it is coming from the common options for the payment and the invoice. Here in this page, we can see we have all the details like the business unit, payment business unit, supplier number, supplier site, supplier address, legal entity, payment currency also. So once this field will be used if we want to make the payment in the different currency. So once we will come there, so then we will discuss. Payment accounting, in the accounting tab, we can check the accounting date, liabilities, distribution, conversion rate date, conversion rate type, inverse conversion rate, document category, voucher number. So once the invoice is created, so voucher number will be generated. First party tax registration number, it will be the organization registration number. Supplier tax registration number, whom we are going to make the payment. So first party is here is the buyer. Supplier is the supplier, vendor. So expense account in the accounting detail section comes from the distribution set. Liability account comes from the invoice header. And if the invoice header, it will come from the supplier side. Also, there is a override account functionality. So what is that? Let's suppose after posting the accounting, user realized like he has done the mistake. So he has the option just by coming into the invoice workbench and going into the accounting section, accounting page, then just by overriding account, he can override the account. He don't need to now post it again. So those accounting entries will be override and the new accounting entries will be generated. Payables invoice also called the purchase invoice. So here is the screen how to make the payment from the invoice workbench. So in that you will notice you don't need to select the supplier because it is already by default will be considered like the from the invoice workbench page. So supplier pages or supplier details will be considered in the backend against which supplier we are going to make the payment. These are the bank account from which we are basically reimbursement bank account from which we are going to make the payment. Payment process profile. Through what profile we are going to make the payment. Payment amount and payment method took by the system automatically. Remit to account, remit to bank name, remit to bank branch, we don't need to give here because it will be taken by default from the supplier setup. Payment document, this is the check detail. Payment number, this is the check number. So we can through this way make the payment from here. Now after making the payment, this is the accounting details. So liability account will be debited and the cash clearing account will be credited. Cash clearing account will not be debited until the check is cleared from the bank side. So once the check will be cleared from the bank side and the reconciliation done, so this cash clearing account will be debited and the cash account will be credited. This is the phase to make the payment from the payment workbench. In that we have to give multiple criteria so that accordingly those invoices will be selected like the business unit, supplier name or party name, supplier size, address will come automatically, payment date, disbursement bank account, we have to give ourselves payment currency, payment in what currency we want to make the payment, payment method by what payment method we want to make the payment, payment process profile, through what process profile we want to make the payment, then the payment document and the paper document number. On that basis, we can have the multiple invoices or the which are relevant. Here one option you can see this amount field is the editable. So we can edit here through payment workbench. We can make the partial payment. Let's suppose out of 2000, I want to make the payment of only 1000. So I can edit it here and make the payment accordingly. These are some notes regarding the invoice installments. So let me go through it. An installment is the part of the invoice that specifies payment due dates, amounts, and other payment information. An invoice can have one or more installments. Yes, it can. Splitting the installment. Yes, this is the good thing. Split an installment to make payments on two different days or to use two different payment methods. So why splitting is used to make the payment on different dates or to use the different payment methods for each installment. Another installment is automatically created for half of the gross amount of the installment that you split. So it is not in our hand, system automatically creating it by dividing the payment into two equal parts. Note here, we cannot split an installment that is paid. Yes, that is correct. partially paid, on hold, or selected in payment process request. So if invoice is fully paid or partially paid or on hold or already selected in the payment process request, means that is under the sub process, we cannot select it for the split. Invoice installments, placing or release the hold. Yes, that is also another use. Like let's suppose we want to make the hold on half of the amount. You can place and release holds on installments. Installments with holds cannot be paid. Let's suppose I have an invoice of 1000 rupees, and out of that I want to put the hold on 500 rupees and make the payment only of 500. So through installments we can do that. First we will create the two installments and then we will put hold on one installment and we can make the payment for the another installment. So again, we cannot place a hold on an installment that is paid. Yes, that is correct. Already on hold or selected in the payment process itself. So here, how we can do that? Here in this screen, let's suppose we are coming this installment. So by selecting installment, let's suppose I select the installment 2 and select the split installment. So it will be equally divided into 125 and 125. Then we can place the hold as per our installment. And accordingly, we have the button to release the holds. How to reach the installment page? Under on the invoice page, under the actions, we can go to the manage installment. Now another concept is invoice tolerances. So invoice tolerance determine for various variance between invoice and the documents you match them to, such as purchase order. So yes. So let's suppose invoice and purchase orders are not matching. So up to what limit we want to tolerate that one? Okay, let's suppose invoice purchase order is of 1000 rupees. Okay, but invoice is of 1500 rupees or 995 rupees. So if that will come under the tolerance, then we can make the payment, we can process. Otherwise, it depends on the tolerance setups. So these are some options like percentage tolerance of 0 means variance will not be allowed. So in that case, if the purchase order is of 1000 rupees, so invoice should be equal to the 1000 rupees. Second case, let's suppose specify small percentage. Let's suppose 1 or 2%. So 1% of 1000 is 10 rupees. So if the if the purchase order is of 1000 rupees, but the invoice is of like 995 and or 1105. So since it comes under that 1% tolerance, so it will be processed. If the active tolerance do not have any value, means there is no, so it means it will not restrict an invoice against, like let's suppose 1000 rupees purchase order. If the invoice is of like 980, 950 or 1050, so system will not put any hold or restriction. System will allow. Another one is the quantity based tolerance. So it applies based on the matches quantity. Let's suppose in the PO, it will not work on the amount, it will work on the quantity. So ordered percentage and the maximum order. Validation checks the billed quantity against the ordered quantity. So validation checks the billed quantity against the ordered quantity. What the ordered we have given and the what the against what quantity we are making the invoice. Received percentage, maximum received. Here in this, if we select the second option, validation checks the billed quantity against the received quantity. So we can say first one is the two-way matching, will work in the two-way matching. Third one will work in the three-way matching. This is the screen through which we can set up the invoice tolerances. So we have the option, it can be the interview question like the invoice tolerance type, quantity based or the amount based. We have to give the name of that invoice tolerance. Then there are some options in the below, ordered quantity, maximum ordered quantity, received quantity. So accordingly, we have to set up here the tolerance limit. After that, we have to give this tolerance by going into this manage invoice options at the quantity tolerance and the amount tolerance. What the tolerance we have created. We have to also set up this tolerance at the by going into the supplier site level. So we under the invoicing section. These are some, this is the page how to download the ADF desktop as at our machine to use the ADF file download, ADF DI shift. So under the tool section, we have this link. We can, after that, we have to do multiple setups. Once in the practical session, I will let you know what are the setups we required before accessing those files. Here in this screen, it is displayed how to apply the debit memo or credit memo to the standard invoice. So during the creation of the debit memo, we have to select the invoice type as the debit memo and we have to give the amount in the with negative sign. Then in the lines option, we have a correct unmatched invoices. Okay. Once we click on that, we will have the option and this second window will be open. Through that, we can select this amount against this is the standard invoice. Then apply. So this 1000 amount will be deducted from this 10,000 amount. So now we have to make the payment for the standard invoice only. Same way, we can apply the credit memo. Only difference is that we have to take the invoice type as the credit memo and then we have to same option we have to select. 1 second. Okay. So same way, next window will be open, and then you notice here that remaining amount becomes the 9,000 because we have already applied the debit memo. Now, after applying this credit memo to this 9,000, it will be the 8,000. So we have to just make the payment now of the 8,000 only. One thing we have to keep in mind during the payment of the standard invoice, we have to apply the debit and credit memo manually. Okay. So this is the page of the payment workbench. Here all these invoices are displaying. So we have to select these all the invoices to make the payment. So as you can see, all these invoices, debit memo, credit memo, and standards are coming here. So after calculation, remaining amount is 8,000. So this way we can make the payment. These are the some options to void the payments by going into the payment screen and going into the actions. First is the void payment. In that we have to give the void date, accounting date, and the what will be the invoice actions we have to take. Like if we want to cancel the invoice, none, or place hold on the invoice. Second option is to stop the payment. So stop date we have to give, stop reason we have to mention, and the stop reference. Then we can submit. Let's suppose our issue resolved, then we have to reissue the payment. So for that we have the option reissue date we have to give it, conversion rate, new document number, through new check because earlier check we have stopped, and the new voucher number, then submit. So that's all for this session. Remaining things we will take into the next session. Thank you all.